Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Breaking news on day 39 of the United Auto Workers strike against General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. Nearly 7,000 workers are going on strike right now at Sterling Heights Assembly Plant in Michigan. Sterling Heights Assembly Plant makes the very, very popular Ram pickup truck for Stellantis. And this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt Stellantis. The announcement was just made, which brings the total number of workers on strike to over 40,000 workers on strike, as we are just shy of 40 days of this historic strike. Let's take a look now as workers are heading out of the plant. Again, this just was announced. So you got thousands of workers walking out of the plant. And you also have UAW President Shawn Fain meeting and greeting these workers outside of Sterling Heights Assembly. Once again, this is the plant that makes the very, very popular Ram pickup truck. I think the exact Ram 1500 trucks joining the strike. So this is going to really, really hit Stellantis where it hurts. And actually, if you watched President Fain's Friday live stream, he not so subtly kind of hinted that this was going to happen. Let's take a listen.
So what's the punchline? This week, GM and Stellantis got the message loud and clear. They hurried to catch up with Ford. But GM in particular is worrying. They tell us they need a two-tier wage progression because they expect to do a lot of hiring. At the same time, they threaten product and won't give us the right to strike over plant closures. I wonder how members at Arlington and Flint Truck feel about that. Stellantis has its issues as well. They're still at a 4-year progression. They're still at just $20 for temp workers. They've rejected all increases to retiree pay. I know plenty of members at Sterling Heights Assembly Plant and in Kokomo, Indiana, who aren't going to like that.
Carrying a big stick. I mean, that was clearly just a few days ago on Friday, a threat to go on strike at this assembly plant, which, by the way, is Stellantis' biggest plant. So he just took out Stellantis' biggest plant, which makes, as far as I know, one of its most profitable, best-selling cars, the Ram 1500. I see those all the time when I'm on the road, just covering various stories. That is a very, very popular pickup truck. Actually, yeah, that was actually one of the trucks we just drove. We were in, I'm losing track because we've been so many places recently. The rent-a-car only had a Ram pickup truck. That was the only car left. So we drove this massive behemoth of a truck. Anyway, this is major. Again, this brings the total number of workers on strike to over 40,000 workers. Let me show you just kind of the update overall on the entire strike. Again, this is from his broadcast just the other day on Friday, where he goes down the list of what the companies are offering. In my view, and what he's going to present, clearly, they are trying to frame it that they've offered the best that they can and can't do any better, which Fain calls BS on. Let's take a look.
So let's look at where we are across the big three. Under wages, at all three companies as of this week, we have a 23% raise on the table. That's up from 20% just a few days ago and up from 9% when they made their first offer. The companies keep saying they hit their limit, and then their limit went up, and we think there's more ground to gain. On the wage tiers, at all three companies, we have killed massive wage tiers. This is a major win, and it's been a major priority. We believe in equal pay for equal work. At Stellantis, Mopar workers will make production wages. At GM, the CCA and GMCH will make production wages. At Ford, Sterling Axle and Rawsonville will make production wages. This represents huge raises for these members and will end the toxic wage tier divide among these members. Looking at the wage progression, We started these negotiations with a ridiculous 8-year progression. At Ford, we got down to 3 years where it was in the mid-90s. At Stellantis, they're still stuck on a 4-year progression. And at GM, they want the 2-tier progression with 3 years for all current employees and 4 years for future hires. Obviously, that's not going to fly. If Ford can do it, so can GM and Stellantis, and we are not adding a new tier. With cost of living, at Ford, we have won cost of living back to where it was in 2009, something we were told was impossible. At GM, we're really close with some tweaks left to make. And at Stellantis, we've still got a deficient COLA on the table that doesn't kick in for the first year. In regards to profit sharing, at all 3 companies, we've been able to beat back concessionary profit sharing proposals. At Ford, we've actually enhanced it, and temp workers with 90 days will now be eligible. At GM, we've maintained profit sharing but added eligibility for temps with 1,000 hours on the job. At Stellantis, we've maintained but haven't yet won eligibility for temp workers. In looking at temps, we're fighting to end the abuse of so-called temp workers who make low wages and have fewer rights and little security. At Ford, we've raised the temp wage to $21 an hour and won conversion of all current temps with 90 days worked or 90 days in. At GM, we've also hit $21 an hour for temps, with all the temps who have a year in getting immediately converted to full-time. At Stellantis, the temp wage is still at $20 an hour, and we're going to convert thousands of temps. At all 3, we're still negotiating a pathway for future temps to get converted to end the abuse of these members. We're fighting hard to win language across the Big 3 that will make sure that temporary work is just that, temporary. Looking at job security, one of our biggest proposals on job security has been the right to strike over plant closures. They can't keep closing plants without any consequences. At Ford and Stellantis, we've won that right. We will keep our jobs secure with the most powerful weapon we have, the strike threat. At GM, the company still won't grant it. Looking at work-life balance, at all 3 companies, we've won additional holiday, the Juneteenth holiday, and 2 weeks of paid parental leave, a first for our members at the Big 3. There's still room to grow there. In retirement, we know we need to fix our broken retirement system at the Big 3. All 3 companies are now offering a $3 increase to the pension multiplier and boosting the 401k through GM, although GM lags behind. Ford and Stellantis are offering 9.5% employer contribution to the 401k, and GM is offering just 8%. For current retirees, Ford is offering a $250 annual lump sum payment, and GM just a one-time $1,000 lump sum payment. Stellantis isn't offering anything on that front.
Hey, retirees, how's this for, improving your life? Here's $250 or $1,000. Or if you're Stellantis, eat shit. We're not giving you a pretty penny increase. So that's where it's at. Since obviously this new plant is Stellantis, if you look through what Stellantis is offering, 23% increase, which again, to workers who might be listening who don't know anything about the UAW strike, the history, that might sound like a lot. But when you factor in 13 or 14 years ago, they gave back about 10% of their wages after the 2008-09 financial crash. And then you factor in inflation has hovered between 15 and 20%. If they got a 23% increase, basically with inflation and what they gave back over a decade ago, you're basically getting a very, very modest increase, not significant. So it's basically bringing you back to where you were, considering all those factors. So I think where they're going to have to get to, Stellantis and all these companies, if they want to enter this strike, is closer to 28 to 30% increase in wages, not to mention improvements on these other categories. Remember, this started with Stellantis and these other companies offering about a 10% wage increase. They're now up to 23%. Make no mistake, they could definitely get closer to 30% in terms of an increase, and definitely give more to current retirees. Stellantis in particular, who is now offering to close or bring down the pathway to full pay to 4 years. That ain't going to fly. They need to bring that down considerably, in my view, no more than a year, maybe year and a half, 2 years. So clearly, this strike is accelerating to now taking out the most profitable, biggest plants that these companies have. We just saw a week ago the plant in Kentucky for, what was that, Ford go out, the Kentucky plant that makes some of their most profitable trucks. So they're not screwing around, the UAW, and now they are hitting these companies in the most painful at the most painful plants. And sure, I mean, this is going to hurt. The experts and the pundits are going to say, when is it enough for the UAW? They are presenting it as the companies have offered historic contracts and amazing, benefits and this and that. I would reverse that and say, when will it be enough for the companies? Because they clearly have more to give. And as Sean Fain just noted, two of the companies just gave very, very generous dividends back to its shareholders. Let's take a listen to that.
So billionaire Bill Ford made his own speech this week, talking down to us and telling us what we should be willing to accept. Literally the next day, the company made an astounding announcement. Ford Motor E Company said they were going to give an additional $600 million in shareholder dividends this year. That amount of money alone would amount to about $1 an hour raise for all Ford workers for the entire life of this next contract. Dividends are just throwing money at Wall Street. And I don't have to tell you, lavishing money on people who are already rich doesn't improve the business, and it does not improve the economy. It doesn't make Ford more competitive, and it doesn't secure a future for Ford. Investing in our members does all that. What Ford is showing us is that the money is there, they just don't want us to have it. They constantly make statements about a sustainable future, but actions speak louder than words. What's unsustainable is taking the billions we generate in profit and handing them directly to Wall Street. They're telling us there's no more money while they loot the company through the back door.
So clearly, they've got the money to spare. Obviously, this strike, there's a lot going on right now. There is war in the Middle East, horrible massacres going on to the people of Gaza. Obviously, we have hostages still being held, Israelis that are being held hostages. And we just learned that some of those hostages were killed. So I'm not trying to take away from that. Obviously, that's a massive global story. But the UAW strike still, I remain steadfast. This is the biggest story in terms of the working class in America. We're now about 40 days into this strike. So we will update you and hopefully get back on the ground if we can to cover this.